Mental Health, the Up&Up. We're trying to make mental health care clear, helpful, and maybe even fun. We're chatting with licensed therapists, but this is not therapy. These are simply thoughts and ideas for you to discuss with your own therapist and to help you on your journey of complete wellness.
So, hi, Anna.
Hi.
Today, I wanted to talk about existentialism,
Okay, that's one of those
right?
big words that sounds very vague.
Yes.
I throw it
And
around a lot, but it doesn't mean much. At least not to me.
when I bring this up, usually I say, I want to talk about existentialism because it makes me sound really smart,
Right? Exactly.
right? um, and existentialism is one of those words that a lot of people don't know exactly what it means. It does sound really esoterically smart, like you'd study
Yeah.
it in the higher levels of education in Harvard.
Esoteric's another one of those words that feels like it doesn't mean a whole lot.
That's esoteric, yeah.
Esoteric
So,
is so esoteric.
yes,
Sorry.
reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. Pretentious? Moi? Anyway, back to existentialism.
Yes.
So, it sounds complicated, but if you break it down, it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay.
So the root word of existentialism is exist.
Right.
So existentialism basically means, what does it mean to exist
Hmm.
um, in a way where human beings exist that's different than the chair I'm sitting on exists,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
The chair exists. I exist. My dog exists. They all exist a little differently.
This is bringing me to the old philosophy debates about, I don't remember which Greek it was, but the one who had the whole bit about, I think, therefore I am. That
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
And his example was the chair.
yeah.
Because the chair does not think, does the chair exist? And so I've always twisted that to, I think, therefore I am a chair. Anyway.
Or I think that's how I know I'm not a chair. So existentialism, what is different between me and a chair and the how we exist?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of uh, basic areas. There's a lot of areas, and people who call themselves existentialists or study existentialism or write books about it, they can go pretty darn deep. But
Mm-hmm.
talking about just some basic ones, that apply to mental health or can apply to mental health or counseling. I'm going to start with the easiest one to understand, and that's awareness of death. Okay.
Mm.
So I know I'm going to die someday. I know life is uh, temporary. I know the passage of time. A chair doesn't. A
Mm-hmm.
chair doesn't realize that it deteriorates. And even animals probably don't. There's some examples of, like, when an elephant knows it's dying, it goes to the elephant graveyard, but they think that's probably more instinctual.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'd point more to the fact that elephants, they've recently posted things about how elephants actually sort of hold a funeral service. And so do crows, actually.
that's interesting. And it's also called a murder of crows. I don't know if that has
Indeed.
anything. So, regardless of exactly where that
Yeah.
line is, the study of existentialism is how, you know, as humans, we're aware of death. And we could also make the argument that some humans aren't aware of, you know, the passing of time or death. And, definitely my dog, I doubt, is aware of the concept of death. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're aware of death, you know that that exists, that's going to happen. Okay.
Okay.
It, it kind of has two sides, a positive and a negative to it. It can definitely pull us into despair.
Yeah.
Why bother? I'm going to die someday. 50 years from now, none of this will matter. 100 years from now, no one's going to even remember me. and it can
Mm-hmm.
really pull us towards despair, which is why existentialism a lot of times has a real dark, negative feel to it.
Mm.
But I do have a favorite existentialist who actually, I just say that because it makes me sound even more smart, um, who kind of took a little bit of a different tack to it. And Viktor Frankl
Okay.
uh, was his name. And he talked about it more along the lines of that awareness of death also is what is kind of the bucket list idea. If we're
Mm.
aware we're going to die, why are we putting off that trip to Iceland? You know, who cares if we fart in public?
Right.
You're right. No one's going to remember that 100 years from now. So why are we obsessing over, what kind of car we drive, or
Mm-hmm.
why are we running around making sure our house is clean rather than hugging our children?
Yeah.
If we're if we're aware that time is precious, uh, let's we that can be a real hopeful thing,
Mm-hmm.
not just a real depressing uh, thing to despair about. Um, so I'm going to go through the concepts, and then it'll probably, hopefully, become clear how this applies to like mental health and anxiety and
Yeah.
things like that. Because anxiety is also kind of like a core concept in all existential issues. It's like, if you're aware you're going to die, of course you're a little anxious about that, you
Fair
know?
enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of pretending that we're not going to die, which I think is a reasonable thing to do for a lot of the time. We shouldn't be thinking of it all the time. Brings down our level of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, so awareness of death. The
Okay.
other, or one other main thing that's different between me existing versus my chair existing, is the concept of choice. I have choices. I can decide uh, what to do. Certainly within some limits, but the chair can't
No
decide I don't
choice.
want to be. Yeah. And I even do go so far as my dog can't decide not to chase cars. A squirrel can't decide not to gather nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a more instinctual, and it wouldn't even occur to a squirrel to say, I wonder if I have enough nuts gathered.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that concept of we have choice kind of there's two sides to that too. If you think, I have choice, then you say, oh goodness, every decision I make then is actually my fault or my problem.
Mm-hmm.
If someone tells me what to do and tells me what to believe, that kind of absolves me of some responsibility, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
If I say, a good whatever, a good woman, a good Christian, a good counselor, a good whatever follows these steps,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to think. There's very little anxiety. This is what I'm supposed to do.
The current phrase of could oh, I'm trying to remember the meme. It was I was looking around for an adult to make the decision. Then I realized I was the adult who had to make the decision. So could an
Yes.
adult come along and tell me what decision to make?
Yes, 100%. And I will admit that sometimes, especially early on as a counselor, I'm there like I would think about what's going on with a client and go like, man, I think they need a really good counselor. Oh, wait, that's me. So I better either, figure it out. For me,
Be a good
usually it
counselor.
was
Yeah.
learn something, ask someone, get some more training, because
Yeah.
if a counselor's going, man, I need to talk to a counselor about this. I probably need
Yep.
some more training.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that choice, it's so comforting to have those rules.
Yes.
It definitely lowers anxiety and also saves time. If every time I make every little decision about what to wear, if I have to think, well, what are the consequences of this shirt going to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's exhausting. So, uh, And the overwhelming part of having that choice, I call the cereal aisle effect. Like,
Yes, we've talked
it,
about this before. Yeah.
yeah, if you don't have some guidelines and you look at a cereal aisle in any grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
it, I don't know what it is about cereal, but there are, I was going to say 800 is an exaggeration, but I bet there are 800 types of cereal. And
Probably.
in your grocery store, there's probably at least 100,
Yep.
and if you don't have any rules or guidelines about that and you just say, I have total choice, and you look at that aisle, it is overwhelming and it can freeze you, right?
I call it the subway deli phenomenon.
Same thing, yeah.
You can make this sandwich however you want. Here's the options. Go.
Right. Yes.
Um.
And yeah, sometimes it's just so much easier if someone makes those choices for us.
Mhm.
And again, not right or wrong.
Mhm.
I remember I had a friend who lost a loved one and was grieving. And I took her out to lunch a couple of times. And both times, uh, I'd say, oh, what do you want? She's there like, I don't know. What are you going to have? And I'd say, well, I'm going to have a French dip with Diet Coke. And she'd go like, that's what I'll have.
Yeah.
Because her brain couldn't make those choices right then.
Right.
So that guideline actually helped lower her anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
and got some food into her.
Yeah.
So the ability to choose is
I would
an
say even sorry, I would say even the awareness of that you have the ability to choose makes
right.
that even more pertinent.
Yeah. And again, can totally be overwhelming, can
Mm-hmm.
totally make us feel stuck because if it's my choice, then it's also my responsibility, the effects of that choice.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, on the positive side, is it that freedom is freeing, and it is what makes us human. That
Yeah.
I can say, I believe this particular thing, regardless of what anyone else believes, or regardless as to what anyone else tells me I should believe.
Yeah.
You know, so kind of keeping that balance is also a part of existentialism.
Hmm.
And how that applies a lot of times in counseling is in kind of helping you balance that. Like I say, in the grocery store, in the cereal aisle,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to maintain all those choices. You
Yeah.
can say, these are my three cereals that I like, or this is the brand that I like, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
block out all the rest of those choices
Yeah.
um, as a way to just manage life. And if you're feeling stuck, you can also increase those choices. Like if you're in a situation where choices have been taken away, or many choices have been taken away,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that pulls us out of despair is if we can say, I can at least choose what color socks to wear. I don't have these choices as far as some other really important things that are going on in my world.
Yeah.
But if we maintain that we have some sense of choice, we that hope stays alive in us, and we don't fall into despair as much or as deeply.
I like that.
And Viktor Frankl's quote, and I'm going to misquote it totally. He was in a concentration camp in World War II, and he actually makes a point in his books that he actually wrote his books before the concentration camp. So it wasn't
Hmm.
that experience that caused this. I don't know why that's so important to him. But he
So that you
said,
know that he said it in a sound mind
oh,
prior to
yeah,
trauma.
that makes sense. Yeah. His quote was about people who didn't fall into despair in the concentration camps. He said if they maintained that they still had the choice of which blade of grass to eat,
Hmm.
they were able to maintain some hope. And again, not that that was the only danger, but it talked about how important that sense of choice was in reminding us that we're human and we have value and there is hope in the world. And
Yeah.
that's a devastating quote. I mean, that's if that's what you're choosing, that's how devastating. I mean, how, truly horrific. And
Yeah.
if throughout adversity, though, you can maintain, I do have this choice. And again, hopefully you'll never be in that situation where that's your only choice, but I can choose what color socks to wear. I can choose what kind of coffee to get. I can choose, maybe I can't quit my job, but I can choose, what to wear to work or how to do this part of my job. It just keeps us, uh, it keeps us hopeful, and it fights despair. Is that,
That's making. Sorry, I'm looking at your Viktor Frankl quotes to try and find it for you.
oh, did
So
you?
if I look
Okay.
distracted, that's why.
Okay. You did. So yeah, let me know if you find it. I should probably, before I say this is a great quote I should
I've
probably figure
got
out.
the one that's coming up most often is the between stimulus and response there is a space, which I've heard that
Uh-huh.
phrase, that quote before, but that's not the one.
Yeah.
This one is everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way,
Yeah.
which applies.
Yeah. And actually
Anyway.
that kind of, uh, marries the choice. And another existential concept is, the concept of meaning, is that I can decide what's important to me, what's meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are guidelines to that, but I can also choose which guidelines to follow. So yeah, no one can take that away from you. What
Yeah.
your heart says is important, uh, is, no one can control that or take that away. They can certainly try and make it difficult, but there
This
are some things that just, uh, are central to us. What were you going to say?
this reminds me of our talk about cognitive distortions.
Yeah, yeah.
And I told you about one of my favorite top five favorite movies, Secondhand Lions,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and the old man who has his "How to Be a Man" speech that he gives to all young men, and he
Mm-hmm.
tells the one small part in the movie, which is that a man should always believe in certain things, which is, and for this was these were his guiding lights, which is
Mm-hmm.
that people are at the base of it mostly good,
Mm-hmm.
that good always conquers evil, that true love never dies, and these were like his statutes of life and how to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's choosing what you build your life around,
Yeah.
what your priorities are, what matters.
And when we think of some of those, um, concepts or rules that maybe don't always make sense in the moment,
Yeah.
it still, keeps us human and from falling into despair if we maintain that belief, kind of regardless of the practicality of it. And
Mm-hmm.
to help that make sense, I think of I don't know if it's all military or just Marines, but that statement, no man left behind or no one left behind, is
Yeah.
that value is so intrinsically important to that organization,
Mm-hmm.
even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this particular one situation.
Yeah.
If that organization said, well, we're going to believe that sometimes, but not all the time,
Right.
that doesn't just break down that one situation, that affects the whole organization, right? So
Exactly.
if I believe, good conquers evil, and then, and I don't know, kick someone in the shins and don't say I'm sorry, you know, maybe
Yeah.
I'll never see that person again. Maybe that person didn't notice it was me who kicked them in the shin. That's kind of beside the point. In
Mm-hmm.
order for me to maintain who I am, I need to kind of keep uh, that in order to keep that belief going, it's helpful to apply that belief even in times where you think, oh, nobody's going to notice this or nobody's going to see this.
Right. Agreed.
And when I talk to clients, particularly who are struggling with depression, I talk about these existential ideas because they do fight despair and help feed hope. And the way I put it is I say, think of something that you believe that even if you're in a room of 1,000 people and everybody else said, this is true, that you would still say, no, everyone here is, I don't believe any one of you. I believe that this other thing is true.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask people to think of those in real, deep, serious, fundamentally held beliefs, but also in real simple ways, just because it's easier to kind of get that pattern going if you think of it in a real simple a real simple example first. I can see you're looking a little confused. I'll give you
Keep going.
my example is chocolate good. You know, I
Okay.
I don't care how many people say chocolate is stupid or yeah, no, chocolate is good. Everybody in the room can say, why eat chocolate? It's no, chocolate is good. The other thing that often comes up is, for some weird reason, Garth Brooks, but who I don't think one thing or another, or a particular singer. If everybody else in the room is saying, this singer sucks, and they're like, no, they're the most wonderful thing in the world. Or an actor. I ask them to think of, something little that they believe or like or think is good, regardless of what anybody else in the world believes. And that can be chocolate, that can be Garth Brooks, that can
Mm-hmm.
be, your favorite movie, uh, your favorite author, your favorite color. I happen to think that the color of my walls are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people actually are kind of verbally like, oh, why are your walls that color? And for one thing, they're like, they're my walls. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel like I'm sitting in sunshine. And
Right.
I don't care what any interior design magazine says, I love them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start with kind of little things like that and kind of creating like at least an anchor point of what you do believe, what does have meaning in your life. And then you go to like really huge things. Like, I know I love my daughter. No one will ever convince me that that's a illusion or that's just certain brainwave neurons firing, no,
Mm-hmm.
I no, you know.
Right.
So those core beliefs, like you were saying about the poem, people are at their core good. Good will win over evil. And what was the other one? There's
True love never dies.
true love never dies. Yeah, that's a tough one for me, but maybe. But if those core beliefs, and then not only does that lower our anxiety, lessen our despair, but it also helps us with those middle ground kind of decisions. Like, do I buy a new car or put my money into savings?
Mm-hmm.
Do I go to this concert or do I get some sleep tonight? If we kind of know what the edges are, those core
Yeah.
beliefs, and then also our just personal, what we like and don't like, it helps us with those middle decisions that tend to be more difficult to make.
So is this the third point of existentialism, is having a belief system?
Meaning, yes, that we can develop what's meaningful to us. And
Okay.
there are a lot of other things about um, existentialism. There's a lot of parts to it. The awareness of death is more to just kind of get us used to that concept of
Yeah.
kind of that how taken to one extreme, it can really pull us into a despair. Taken to the other extreme, it can make us very, very hopeful. Um, the ones that I concentrate a lot with clients, and most people find most helpful, is that belief in choices and that kind of reliance on the belief that they have choices. Even if
Mm-hmm.
so many choices are taken away from us, nobody can take away all of our choices.
Yeah.
But then also sometimes that when choices feel overwhelming, go back to your sense of meaning, what's meaningful
Mm-hmm.
to you. Um, and that because too many choices can definitely cause huge anxiety, take up lots of time, and it can be very comforting to to not have to make all those choices every single time. And
Yeah.
then to focus on too, what meaning do we have in life? And when we're struggling with those little questions, if we go back to like our core meaning, what's important to us, our purpose, then it makes those little questions just easier to decide. So now you and everyone who's listening can go around and tell people they're an existentialist
Ah.
and sound really smart.
I just thought of another way where this last one of belief systems and what's important to us ties into therapy and mental health is boundaries.
Ah, uh-huh.
Your beliefs in what is important and not important is how you establish those boundaries, how you decide what those boundaries should be.
Yeah.
And having that definition to your world absolutely makes it feel safer, makes it feel like you understand what's going on around you,
Mm-hmm.
um, and is helpful in child development
Yeah. Yeah.
and adult development. But
And I would say too is helpful in kind of making that decision about when to speak out versus to let things go, or
yeah.
what to put your energy towards versus, again, let go. I go back, I think I mentioned this in another podcast, probably talking about emotions. I came across two men yelling at a young adult woman. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the situation was, but to me, I really strongly believe that intimidation shouldn't be used in probably just about anything. So if I had come across three people smoking, all right, I think that's wrong, whatever. They shouldn't be doing that. But it's not a core belief of it. It's not what gives my life meaning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, protecting someone weaker from someone stronger is a core belief of mine. So
Yeah.
I intervene in that sense. I maybe don't intervene if, they're skateboarding without a helmet. If they're an
Right.
adult, I think that's dumb. It's not a core belief.
Yeah.
So helps me
I've
decide where
actually,
to spend my energy.
I've actually been spent the last year dissecting one of my core beliefs and how it should and should not affect my relationships. Because I believe that in order to be a good, loving, kind friend, whatever, that I should be a really good listener. I should make space for other people to talk.
Uh-huh.
I should be willing to hold space for other people to exist.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I should put other people's needs before my own. And that's just a standard across the board. That's how I approach life.
Uh-huh.
Not saying my needs don't have value and aren't important, but that at the end of the day, if I can do something to help someone else, that's going to be valuable, that will be worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's made for some really good relationships, but also some very imbalanced ones because not everybody holds friendship, relationship to that same value.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I've been struggling with the last year is really defining out what that is that I believe as a core value and why that's important and how I can still uphold that but not be taken advantage of.
Right.
Because I've ended up with a lot of in a lot of really unbalanced friendships,
Mm-hmm.
especially. That's where I end up with it the most, where I start making friends with this person and I listen to them because that's what a good friend does by my
Mm-hmm.
book. And it gets to the point where if I need to talk, they're not willing to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
They don't hold space for me. They don't just sit and listen. They don't even offer advice. They don't do anything. They literally won't listen to it.
Hmm.
Um, which makes me feel used and undervalued and all of those things. And so I've been struggling with the core values of I respect that you don't believe the same thing I do,
Right.
but this is important to me.
Right.
I want to
Yeah.
give it to you because I care about you, but you're not giving it back, but I can't force you to give it back because it may not be your value.
And
And
it's
it's
not
like,
my value to force my values on you. Yeah.
precisely. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that quagmire for the last year really just dissecting that and trying to find where the balance is of what I put up with, what I allow, and what I give out,
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't become burnt out and bitter, and
Mm-hmm.
that I have meaningful relationships.
Yeah. I That's an existential situation.
Crisis.
I I was going to say I wish I could just say, well, here's the answer to that, but I don't know that there is an answer to that.
It's not easy because,
Yeah.
again, I value other people and I value their right to live how they want to live,
Yeah.
but I need certain things to feel fulfilled. So,
Yeah. My first thought was, oh my goodness, am I one of those friends?
no,
Okay.
not
Whew.
even a little bit.
My second thought truly does border on advice, which take it or leave it, is when I personally feel stuck in that situation, I go back to how much I value the core people in my life. And
Mm,
then I don't 100% believe that saying about, you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you can put it on someone else. I don't think that's applicable in every situation.
yeah.
But when I get stuck, I look at, is this affecting, is this friendship that isn't reciprocal? Is that affecting my relationship with the core people in my life? That
Mm-hmm.
And I do value the relationship with them. So, I don't know if that helps, but
The
something to
other the
think
other
about.
thing I've had to acknowledge is that in some of these imbalanced relationships, it's a season. It's not what our foundation of our friendship is.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe even a giving an example.
So
Sorry, I think we're talking over each other.
we got a little bit of lag. I'll clean it up later.
Okay. But yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of pieces to that. Like, do you think they're not reciprocating now, but maybe it's worth it for them to have that example of friendship? Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
pieces to that.
it's sometimes that. Yeah. It's also like some of the people, they're going through really hard times in their other internal relationships, and I
Hmm.
just they what they need from me at this moment is for me to listen and not put more on them by sharing my struggles too.
Yeah. Yeah. A
So,
lot a lot to unpack there. And I did come up with the best piece of advice, and that is to just become a chair.
there we go. Problem solved.
Well, that's kind of the just rubbing the surface of existentialism, or struggling with anxiety, depression, relationships, all sorts of things. Sometimes going back and looking at those basics of meaning and choice, and what is it for me to exist in a way that I want to exist, can help with a lot of the problems in life. All right, so we'll talk next time about another fascinating subject, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion.
For more resources, shop at www.upandupwellness.com and hit that subscribe button. If you are in crisis and struggling right now, the national hotline is 988, and they can help you any time of the day or night.